Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to the latest edition of the What's Halperning podcast. I'm so happy to be joined by none other than Holly Morgan. Holly, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. You're one of my favorite people in the world.
Oh my gosh, thank
just so
you.
everyone knows, this is going to be goofy because Holly and I get super goofy together. But Holly is a personality, and she is a media personality. She's a personality in real life. She's become an integral part of my team on the PR side of things, and have become a really good friend, not only of mine, but of Beth, my wife. And it's just been so fun to have you around like the last 6-8 months. I don't even know how long
Can you
it's
believe that? I was just thinking, and actually before I came here, I'm like, who do I like more, Trevor or Beth? We're going to keep it even.
Well, the good thing is this is the What's Halperning podcast. Her last name is Halpern too. So
it falls
whatever.
in.
No, but I think you'd get away with it if you said it was Beth. I'd be fine. I'll play second fiddle to her. But, thank you again for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
With what you do and how you present yourself and how you present your clients, it's amazing. I mean, one of the things that I find, like, I'm around a lot of drivers, like people that drive and push and are driven and are entrepreneurial. And my sphere, the people that I work with, that work with me, that choose to come to work with Halpern Residential, are all driven people. But you stand out among the drivers.
Yeah, I'm so flattered.
Well,
Thank you so much.
what motivates you? Like, what is that? What creates that drive?
Well, I will say I have a little bit of OCD, so that is a nice
driven by OCD.
Driven by
Holly
OCD.
Morgan Media. Driven by OCD.
I think really just having. My background was in TV news, and being in that industry where you are told what you can do, how you should dress, your schedule is dictated by people. I think once I was able to get into a space where I could have my own company, getting up became the highlight of my day. And so I also have a to-do list that I feel like I can't go to sleep until I finish.
That's the OCD.
The to-do list that's color coordinated in 7 or 8 different colors, Roy G. Biv. But I think being on my own and really trying to fulfill expectations of my clients. I mean, you are a hustler, and I like being connected with people like yourself. So I think just getting up and wanting to get things done is really what drives me. I want people to have high expectations, and I want to meet those expectations day in and day out. I want to be a reliable person.
That's awesome. Well, and it shows in your work. I mean, reliability, like, you have never made a promise and not delivered.
Oh, cool.
You've never said you were going to do something and it doesn't happen. Like, every Sunday we get the, like, hey, here's what's happening this week. Like, we get it on time every time, and it's detailed and it's thorough and it's impressive. So it's been a lot of fun to be pulled into your circle, and for your circle to be pulled into mine. And, I think you and I like work together so well and blend those circles and introduce each other like into this kind of ball, this meatball rolling down the hill.
Awesome.
Like, yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I can't believe like you would do news where they tell you what to do. And that's probably why you're shaking loose,
off
right?
Camera, I was like, I like to, I have colorful language here and there. But it was, I felt a little bit like Martha Stewart and being put in a box. And it definitely, being in television, got me to where I am now. But I wasn't truly authentic to myself.
Yeah, and that's and now that authentic you comes through in your work, and not even just in you being in the PR world, but having your own thing, which is a pretty recent phenomenon, right? Like, how long have you had your own company?
Well, so I was actually working in PR here for a company for about a year. And then when the pandemic hit, I was like, working from home is going to be the new thing. It was really kind of, it just struck me as this is the time to pivot and do your own thing. So it was really in October of last year, and I thought it was going to be really difficult. And granted, there have been some challenges, but it has been extremely successful. And I think the pandemic added that layer of also businesses needing more exposure. And then the partnerships that I have with news and other journalists and publications is being creative in the ways that we can get your name out there. So it's really only been just a little over a year.
It's amazing. And for me to have been a part of it for I mean, how long?
I don't know.
6 months?
I don't know.
Maybe 7 months, 8 months, something like that. I mean,
It's been
for a good chunk of
so
it.
fun, though. I
It
have
has
to
been.
say that as well.
It's been a ton of fun.
Because people say, don't be friends with your clients, or I think the complete opposite. And having your own business, you can really, I mean, you taught me that when we first started working together, is really having intricate people part of your sphere. And I love being friends with my clients, and it makes
Totally.
our meetings so much fun.
Makes them ridiculous.
And I think that also our ability to be able to flip that on and off professionally is a gift.
Yeah, when it's go time, it's go time. But
yeah.
there's no reason why we can't have fun
Mm-mm.
while we're being professional.
And we
too.
have a lot of fun.
We do. We already have a bunch of jokes, and one of my favorites, and I brought it up today, was we showed up to. I was going on a podcast, and you had been there, or no, I guess it was at my office. I don't know where it was, but you were in your car, and you had your laptop, and I was like, I thought I was early. Like, you're super early. You're like, no, I've got my laptop. It's like, so if you bring your laptop, you can never be early.
That is a running.
Yeah.
I don't even know where that came from, and I feel like an absolute idiot saying that because it makes no sense.
It makes no sense, but all the
So
sense
now
in the world at the same time.
It's a running joke.
Can't be
so
early.
if I'm early and I have my laptop,
Not early.
I'm not early.
Because I'm working. I'm not even working on your shit. I'm just here. I'm working. Not
So
early if you bring your
ridiculous.
laptop. But no, we've had a ton of fun. Give me an idea. Like, how did you start in media? How did you start on television news? Is that something that like you gunned for in school, or did you graduate with a media degree, a broadcast?
That's actually a great question. So, long story short, I grew up in Oregon, in a very small town, and a lot of people end up going to U of O or Southern Oregon University. And I really made it a goal to try to get out of that town. And I was accepted into several colleges, but obviously ASU at the time, they were in the news for some very colorful headlines when, some fraternities were involved in some very shady things. And
I was
I was
at
like,
ASU then.
I was like,
I love this place.
So I said, I want to go there. My parents were like, okay, great. We can't wait to pay $20,000 for out-of-state tuition. So I went to ASU. And actually, I started as a business major because I didn't know what I wanted to do. Then Grey's Anatomy started blowing up. So I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be I wanted to get a biology degree and be a doctor and meet Mick Dreamy. That didn't work out. I could barely get past Biology 101. So writing has always been a strength of mine. So I changed my major for a third time to journalism, and I was in print journalism. And one of my professors just said that I had this crazy personality and I should try broadcast. And at that point, I was just really trying to get a degree and be happy in what I was going to do. And I think at that time, too, it hadn't really dawned on me what my strengths were. But figuring out that writing would work. And then I had this colorful personality. So they kind of shoved me into the broadcast journalism school. I ended up doing the anchoring over at, Cronkite School. And so I fell into it and it worked. So I graduated from the Cronkite School. And then after that, I did 10 years in news. So I started from the bottom up in Casper, Wyoming, which I kindly call the armpit of America. And then I went to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, on to Dallas, Texas. And then I came back here with the hopes of meeting my mom, who retired here.
Oh, that's cool. So media and broadcast journalism, you always see people bouncing around.
Yeah.
And that's it, right? Stepping stones,
It
correct?
was insane. Like every day. And that's the other thing. I was in my 20s, right? So happy hour happened around 11:30 in the morning. And then I was in bed, and I had to get up for my show at midnight sometimes. My call time was. And then I would produce shows overnight, and then I'd anchor in the morning. So it was definitely a grind. Definitely a grind.
That would be a tough lifestyle.
It sucked.
So what got you? I mean, that sucking got you to the point where you were like, I'm out of here. What finally did it?
Gosh, I think, it was when I was in Dallas, I had really taken a turn of, wow, I had felt like I was so appreciative of the opportunities that I had had and the people that I had met and the exposure. And, there was something about being on TV that is really fun. And obviously it it taps on your ego and things like that. But I felt like I had missed out on a lot. You work every holiday. Flying home from Myrtle Beach back in the day was not cheap. Flying home from Casper, Wyoming was not cheap. I think I was one of the highest paid anchors in Casper, Wyoming at $22,000 a year.
No way.
So it cost, I accrued some debt and just trying to be on camera because I had felt like somebody had told me that's what I needed to do. Everything kind of came full circle. And when I came back to Phoenix, I was like, I think I just want to take a break. I want to take a break and put down the mic, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great. And then I got to sleep in for once, and just everything in and of itself, I felt like I accomplished enough being on a couple of syndicated shows. Was I going to make it to the Today Show or Fox News or CNN? I don't know. But I felt like I had done enough. I had won an Emmy at that point, and I was like ready to put it all
Emmy award
me.
winning.
Yeah.
Right here
I
on
was
the
like,
What's
that was
Halperning
kind
podcast.
of it. And then I just wanted to sleep in, to be completely honest. I wanted to have
hilarious.
a life.
Well, and I could see that lasting all of 7 seconds, right? Okay, I've slept in. Time to figure out what's
Let
next.
me color coordinate.
Let me color coordinate. Sleep in it's its own color coordination, I'm sure. So you how long did you take a breather, and then how did you figure out what your next pivot would be?
So I took a breather for actually when I left Dallas, Texas, and I was on a syndicated show there. It was like it was a late night show for the morning, and that was so fun. But I was still getting up. My call time was 2 a.m. and I just hit a wall. So when I came home, I moved back to Phoenix, and I said, I'm done with TV. And then I got picked up at another show. I was living in this dump of an apartment, and it was like $500 a month. I thought I was going to live on my savings for a year. And it happened to be like a halfway house for inmates who are reintegrating back into
and
society
you didn't know that?
back in the day. So it was a very colorful, push back into society.
There's happy, bubbly Holly
So
surrounded by halfway house
It was
inmates.
insane. So then I ended up working for The List. And I worked for The List here in Phoenix on ABC 15 for about 3.5, 4 years. And at that point, I was a social media correspondent. And I was like, a lot of people that I was interviewing, they needed social media advertising help and just putting together their grids and things like that. And I said, wow, I could make quite a bit of coin just doing this and having my own schedule. So I had ended up stopping at The List and starting my own social media company. And so I didn't take very long, probably 6 months. And then after that, long story short, I ended up doing some dabbling in radio and then doing some other things before I was like, I still want to have those relationships with the media, but not be on camera.
Right.
And that's what led me to PR.
Oh, interesting. So then your step into PR was into big corporate PR, right?
Yeah.
Mid-size corporate PR, small corporate PR?
Mid-size. So the company that I had worked for here in town, they had 100 clients, and it was, similar to what I do now, where I represent different industries, never the same industry. But, we had each about 10 clients. So it was definitely a grind. You just didn't get to choose who you represented.
Right. You would be
Yes.
handed a client and have to represent them, which,
Correct.
I mean, you get to pick and choose.
I
mean,
do.
From our first meeting, you were like, yeah, we're going to work together. Like, we decided that was a
Yes.
foregone conclusion. Strategically brought Beth in.
Yes.
Just to say how you're like, she seems
now
cool
one
too.
of my besties.
Yeah, I love it. I love it so
but
much.
I think that's important too, and that's one of the things in having your own company is I don't say yes to everyone. You are, I like to say, my unicorn client, because it is really
She says I
important. No, I actually don't. Trust me, I can show you the emails.
Not a unicorn.
But you're really invested in your brand and what you do. Obviously, it takes a lot of collaboration. You know that when we're writing articles, you get in there and you'll tear it up or add some things and make it your voice. We have pitch meetings where we get together once a month, and you're really invested in the messages that we're sending out to the media. So I don't just take on anyone. I have to have somebody that's really invested to build their brand and who is going to be willing to put in the work, because I'm just the bridge from you to the media. I'm not the real estate expert. So I definitely like to pick and choose my people who are going to make us shine.
I love it. Well, in that bridge that you talk about, I've been fascinated watching you work and seeing how it actually comes together. Like, I think it seems easy, and it seems like one of those things where, how'd that person get on the news? Or like, I wonder how they're getting published in articles and this and that. And it is you are constantly beating the drum.
Yeah.
And you are constantly angling with producers and writers and, all of the right people, emailing and texting and calling. And it's like, you are selling the product. You're selling me, you're selling the articles, you're selling the ideas. And it really is a constant, like every time we get a media hit, like you just closed the sale, right? You know what I mean? But the effort that goes into it is as much or more than I see anyone in any sort of sales industry. And your ability to network with the decision makers and the people that can make this stuff happen and turn it into a news story and say, yeah, you know what? That article looks great. Let's just pull it in. You have built trust and loyalty and among the people in the industry where you're getting in where other potential PR reps aren't, or you're getting in where other people wouldn't have a chance. Like, why do people in the industry trust you so much? And why do they listen to you? I mean, not all the time.
Yeah, not all the time, because I'm hiding in the bushes.
But you're like,
and
yeah,
I'm
you're totally like,
creeping
I'm going to
around.
keep going. We're going to get them. We're going to go.
I think that's a really great question. And I think for any business owner who is considering PR, it really helps to have a publicist who is familiar with that side of journalism or the TV industry. Where you said I'm beating the drum all the time. First and foremost, when you get a hit, I get a hit, and it's just as fulfilling for me. It's a game. I play this game day in, day out, 7 days a week. But for instance, when the news broke about Zillow here, particularly in town, that in my mind was a one-off, right? And I was thinking, okay, local news is going to cover that either way. Being familiar with the different types of shows, the different types of packages, VOSOTs, interviews that we can offer up, as far as where you could be available, I knew they were going to cover that story anyway. So by saying, hey, Trevor Halpern is available for a soundbite, he can talk about how this Zillow story is going to impact communities, then I already know it's going to be on the news. So by offering that, it's just being familiar with the different types of shows. So you have morning shows, you have dayside reporters, and then you have evening shows specifically for television. And so by knowing the different story types that will be in each one of those shows and offering you up as my client, it's easy to work with me. I think is probably the best, because I can say, hey, you can just come over, get a soundbite real quick. Or if it's a morning show and they need a live shot, we can say, hey, we can offer this beautiful property that Trevor's selling. We can walk and talk. Here are the visuals we can offer. So by being familiar with the industry and the different types of shows specifically for television, I think that really gives us a leg up.
You know what? And that's been super interesting to experience and witness as well, where it's like, we are trying to present them with what they want, with what we know they want. And that's what's been super cool about the dynamic that we've built on our team, is how we look at, Joel Cohen, our digital, with True North, our digital content guy. He brings us at our meetings, our planning meetings, he brings us, hey, Google says these searches are up 400 and 600% in relationship to real estate in Phoenix. And then we go, you know what?
Ding, story idea.
Right. Like you'll go, oh my God, I think that's great. I'll look at it and go, I think that's great. Or no, I don't really like that one. Or I don't really know anything about that.
Or what can we provide visually for this story? Or would this be better for print?
Exactly. And then coming up with it. And if it's better for print, then we go, okay, let's write a blog about it. Then we write a blog, we edit it, we massage it. And then you pitch that blog, and sometimes it just gets picked right up and slid 100%. Right into
a lot of times.
Yeah.
Actually.
I mean, without changing a word, it just slid right into a publication.
And some of those articles that we've written or repurposed, just that you've already written for your blog, have gotten 60 to 100,000 hits.
It's amazing. And so it's like this circle, right? Like we figure out what is newsworthy, what are people really looking for? And then we present the news with, hey, check it out.
Yep.
Like we're talking about this thing that people are talking about. And the news knows people are talking about that stuff too, because they're doing similar research.
Right.
They're finding what's bubbling up. They're finding what's hitting on their sites. They're finding what people are really interested in. And so if we're hitting it timely, if you're presenting them with a nice package and they know that you're professional, they know that you know what you're talking about, you're giving them what they want, it's just an easy plug sometimes. So it's been so interesting because I had no idea how this stuff worked. And it's been really fun and interesting to watch how
I've been pleasantly surprised.
Surprise yourself?
No. I'm just saying it's really been seamless. And I think we've come up with a really good method to our madness in that, news is going to be reporting on real estate, especially here. And if we can offer, that's why I love the Cromford report, and you've turned me on to that, where I can actually read some of the statistics and the information that is relevant and up to date. Because if we can offer an extra added layer to something that they're just pulling off of the wire, and help localize it a little bit more, then we're gonna beat people to the punch.
Totally. No, it's been so fun, and it's, it seems like fun, and it seems effortless the way you do it, but I know it's not. Like, what's your biggest challenge? What do you is you look at when you wake up, happy to wake up and energized and excited to be doing what you're doing? What's the biggest challenge in your day-to-day efforts?
I think my biggest challenge is letting a story die. I will beat a dead horse or switch a subject line or just add something in. So that's one thing that I've got to get a little better at is
letting it just die. If it's not working.
I believe in quality and not quantity. And so for me, it's very hard to say, oh, nobody picked up that story. It was a great story.
Yeah.
So it's figuring out a way to massage it and present it differently. But I would say, making sure, because with your point, as far as us coming up with original story ideas, and then basically you have an amazing team who can say, oh, housing trends has been Googled, or it's the top trending Google search trend. So we can do a story on that. The other challenge of my job is to find story ideas. I source story ideas every other week, whether it's from the Wall Street Journal or USA Today, and trying to find a way to localize those so that we don't miss a beat for the weeks that we don't have original story ideas. So that's challenging in finding a national story and figuring out a way that we can actually position it and localize it. What I love with that, what becomes really rewarding is when we do find something from USA Today or Wall Street Journal and we pitch it out and we have localized it and we get a hit on that.
Yeah.
So I would say just finding the story ideas that are out there when we aren't coming up with original material can be challenging, and it's a lot of sourcing. I probably look at 110 different websites each week sourcing stories.
Wow.
So it's, and a lot of times I just get those from headlines and then we'll go through them. And if we're like, yeah, we like those, then we'll figure out how to actually make it a story. So I'm not reading 100 different articles.
Right. Well, what's so interesting too is you'll find something that'll fit a niche, and then you'll go create a connection with that niche. Like, you're not just local, right? Like, we've gotten hits on realtor.com. We've gotten hits on other national publications, Business Insider, that sort of stuff, where you are establishing a fresh relationship with the editor, with the writer, with whoever. How do you establish those? How do you even get their email address?
Like, I don't want to say. It's kind of
you're super creepy, aren't you?
So there is, again, a method to the madness.
Yeah.
And this is what I found just in starting my own company. What I do is I will find, let's say, Business Insider. I'll go to businessinsider.com. I will find the reporters that have done real estate related stories over the last 3 to 6 months. I see exactly what they're covering. I connect with them on LinkedIn. And then when I pitch them, I say, hey, Bob, great story you did on, Zillow in Phoenix, if they had happened to cover that. Or I love that story that you did in New York where, the housing market was blowing up. So I always give a little tidbit of information saying, hey, I've tracked your work. I know what you're doing. And then I connect with them on LinkedIn because I feel as though putting a face to the name makes you real. And then they can see my credentials and they can see
Emmy.
Yeah, they can. It's just me holding an Emmy.
Everything on social is just you holding
if you didn't know, no. But I think that really makes a difference. And then being a journalist, when I would have people pitch me, just by saying, hey, I've seen your work, or I loved what you did, or that was a total dud. I mean, by acknowledging the work that they've done previously, even if it's a no or they're not interested, by doing that, by having that strategy in place, I usually get an answer, whether it's a yes or a no. And that's really rewarding. And now I'm connected with a lot of them on LinkedIn. And for instance, we have Business Insider on the line for a story that might not come down the pipeline for another month or two, but that was by me reaching out to that particular reporter and saying, hey, I really liked what you did with the Zillow story. I have Trevor Halpern, who, is the #1 independent agent at North & Co. in Phoenix, and we would love to contribute to your next article. So it's just having it's paying attention to what everyone's doing.
You know what? It is like the more we talk about it, I likened it earlier to sales. Like it's sales.
Yeah, it is a little salesy.
Totally, but it's not overly salesy.
Yeah.
I mean, the classic, listen, I've been in some form of sales since I graduated from law
100%.
school. And it's know your clients.
Mm-hmm.
Know your clients better. What void can you fill? And so
Right.
by doing the research, by knowing them and knowing what they're writing, knowing, being able to drop a little bit of knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
you're making their life easier. If we hand them a story and we hand them a
100%.
product, it makes their lives easy.
It's trying to do their job for them.
Right.
And that's where you've caught on really quickly when we pitch to local TV stations and we know it's for a morning show and it's for a live shot. We know we need to provide a location, someone to do the interview, potentially somebody who can provide a soundbite after that interview if they want to tape something for the afternoon news or the evening news. So it really is exactly that. Giving them what they want and packaging something for them so that we can just do the job for them.
It's classic providing value.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's what I do in my business, provide value to your clients and they'll keep coming back and they'll refer you. And it's like, if you are providing value to these media outlets, you're providing them stories, you're providing them an expert, you're providing them really good newsworthy stuff where they don't have to like break it and put it back together to make it work. That is value to them because they're operating. That's the other thing I've noticed. Like they operate at such high speed.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
I mean, it's like, if
They're
you can't
churning
do it
and
right
burning,
now,
yeah.
like we need this right now.
100%.
If you can't do it right now, like, sorry, maybe we'll see you on the next one. Like that's been a tough one too for us. Like they're just simply, sometimes I can't do it. Like
Right.
whether I have a family engagement, I have a professional engagement, I have other things. It's like, it's funny because part of you goes, you're saying no to being on TV or you're saying no to like being in an article, but it's like,
hey, if you're given
life.
a limited time to turn something, I will say too, the journalists here in town, it's such a tight-knit community. Just the people who run all of the stations here are super awesome. I will say the partnership between PR and local news is pretty tight here. It's not like that everywhere that you go. I think that for me, my opinion is that when the pandemic hit, we really kind of relied a little bit more on each other as far as getting stories out there, being able to provide information on what was happening with different companies and different businesses. So I think that the partnership between PR and local media has probably gotten a little better and tighter throughout the pandemic, but it's definitely not like that in a lot of cities. So Phoenix is a wonderful place to do what I do.
That's so funny. I mean, I guess it's because, Phoenix is the sixth biggest city in the country, but like for media, it's like the 15th, the 16th, the 17th.
And I
so
was
it's like
gonna
big city,
say,
small town.
It really, and that is, I mean, when I worked in Dallas is market 4, which obviously New York's number 1, LA, Chicago. Don't quote me on that. I don't know. But, Dallas is 4 or Philadelphia is 4. My husband worked in Philly in local news there, but it's such a small town, no matter where you go and no matter how big the market gets. I mean, yes, Phoenix is a huge city, but when you get into the journalism nitty gritty of it, it really is. It's all small town and everybody knows everybody.
Well, which is another reason to mind your P's and Q's.
Yes.
Right?
That's
to be
true.
on the up and up, to not insult someone or make them mad.
Oh,
or
100%.
not get pissy when someone doesn't pick up a story and send out that,
Yes.
the uppity text or whatever. Like,
because there will always be another opportunity.
Totally. And I mean, unless you close the door because you're a jerk, right?
Exactly.
And if you stop providing value. So it's like, you provide value, you're providing value to your clients, you're providing value to the media outlets, and things just roll and flow. Like what other industries, what are like, do you specialize in certain industries for your clients, or is it like really client to client? Like, hey, I like you, I think we've got something to present. Like what other industries are you involved
So
with?
it's more of, it's a formula, right? So it's exactly what we do and making sure that I can deliver that in other industries. So it's not that I specialize in one industry over another, but I want to make sure that the formula of sourcing stories and having original stories can be relayed to the media and get picked up, that it is valuable to the media. I will say some industries that I would stay away from in particular. CBD is really, really tough.
I was literally going to joke and say medical marijuana or marijuana.
CBD is really, really tough. Medical marijuana, I did rep back in the day a local marijuana company here, and that, you had to be really strategic in positioning. The fact that it's legal here now makes it different, but I do feel like news is probably a little touchy on what they cover and what they don't. But CBD, it's everywhere. I remember this one person had come to me with a pet CBD company, and I was like, everybody has a CBD company. I don't know how I can make you stand out. So there's definitely some industries where it's not a smart move, because again, if I can't guarantee that I'm going to get you media, I'm not taking you on. I don't even gamble. I don't play, and I will be totally upfront and say, I don't think this is gonna pay off as much as we think.
Right. Or go buy some commercials.
Yeah.
Right? And that's
commercials. That's
how you and I start. I was like, give me the value. What is the value of this? And so if you can't, like, explain that, the idea of earned media versus paid media.
Yeah. So earned media is where you basically, as a business owner, pay a publicist to pitch stories on your behalf, and you get to control the narrative a little bit more there, right? On the different topics that you want to speak on. So earned media is where you pay a publicist, and then they pitch all these different media outlets to position you as an expert in your field. Paid media is advertising. So your messaging is limited. Obviously, it's going to be in 1 or 2 publications, and it can be quite expensive. So PR tends to be, what is the saying? People pay for advertising and pray for publicity, right? So I think PR, if you are a business owner, PR is a good strategy if you want to maximize your budget, if you want to position yourself as an expert in your industry. I believe it's more effective than advertising because you can expand your messaging. I think a recent Nielsen survey found that PR is 90% more effective than advertising when it comes to tapping a consumer. So when it comes to actually getting a consumer to notice you. And I think that's been, you've spoken on so many different topics where we were able to speak to the first-time home buyer. We were able to speak to somebody buying their home in their 40s. We were able to speak to something like we're doing 2022 real estate trends right now. So earned media, I think just you can cast a wider net. Paid media, you're a little bit more limited as far as your messaging and where that message will be seen.
Well, and for me, what caught me when you were explaining that, because I didn't know the first thing about PR when you and I first sat down. What caught me about that is how you can silo earned media with my business, network based, right? And you can silo paid media with the types of businesses in real estate that are like buy leads or put a ton of ads out there and hope that the phone rings.
You do a great balance of both. I wouldn't say choose one over the other. I would say, because you do advertising and you do earned media, and you have a wonderful balance of both where you're infiltrating, through advertising where you need to get people's eyes on you. And then also with PR, we've tapped this untapped audience who, whether it's a weekend show or, younger audiences, we've been able to do that too. So you have a really good balance of both.
Thank you. It's worked really well. What it's become is a voice amplification for our network, right? And that's what we talked about when we first started working together. You're like, listen, this is going to create like viability in your network is going to be able to stand on this, right? And it gives us good clips and good expertise and timely topics to feed out to our network via the social platforms. And that's kind of like that 360-degree view that I was talking about earlier. Like, what are the topics that people are interested in? Let's create media that covers that. And then let's push that media out to our network so they can go, oh my gosh, I was just wondering about what's 2022. What's it going to look like? I was kind of thinking about buying or selling, but I don't know what's going to happen. And here we are. Here are the top 5 things or 6 things to be looking out for next year. Obviously no crystal ball.
Yeah.
That's
why we say predictions.
I know, right? Exactly.
We cover our ass.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's, it's funny because in my industry, it's like, never make a prediction. I'm like, whatever. It doesn't work. I'm not telling people like, you need
we
to
are
be buying.
Absolutely going to see a 2%.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know. And I always say that, but it's funny. In my last monthly newsletter video, I laughed at myself because I'm like, I'm making predictions. Like, here we go. Like, hang me.
I love
it.
I think I was in the back going, you make those
predictions.
predictions.
Exactly. Well, it'll be fun, right? It'll be kind of fun next year to see like, okay, here's what we said in November of 2021. How's it look in November or December of 2022, which is crazy to
Right.
think
And you're
it's
also not
2022.
telling people to bet their life savings on something.
No.
You are very just articulate in when it comes to data and being just before you do any TV segment, you're always checking the Cromford report. You're making sure that the statistics and the numbers are up to date. And so obviously some of those predictions, we've done our research and you can say confidently that you can predict these certain trends. But you're not telling anyone to gamble there.
No, I'm not
life
telling,
away.
and I never tell you, like, there's never like buy this house today.
Yeah.
You're going to sell your house. Like, it doesn't work, But I think too, from a network based, business, 95% of my business comes from my network.
Right.
It comes from people recommending me to friends and family or repeat clients or people I know that are like, hey, we're thinking I know you through the Men's Arts Council or know you through something else. And, my wife and I are thinking about buying a house or selling or doing something. And, I know you're in the business. Like they see and they sense it, and they sense that we at least talk like we know what we're talking about.
Right.
And when the rubber meets the road, we deliver that value. And coming back to what you do, that value delivery, I think is something that, I interviewed years ago. I thought PR would be a good thing for my business. And I interviewed a couple of PR companies and I couldn't wrap my mind around it. And one of the things I really like about you is you're like, no, we bill you in arrears. Like, I bill you at the end of the month and I go through and show you what we did.
Yes.
Right. Instead of being like, now give me the money and like, maybe we'll get some hits.
PR
Like,
can get very expensive.
Yeah.
And that was one thing. I mean, you have to really consider the value of each hit, right? And that's kind of how I base my retainers. I can guess that I shoot for 4 hits a month, landing me at about 2. But you pay after services rendered so that you see the value and you know that, hey, I got this one hit, I got this other hit. And you know that you're actually paying for that.
Yeah.
It's not like hey, maybe we'll do our best.
Yeah.
We're
it's
gonna
like,
grind.
that's why you're so proactive, right? And to your point earlier, like you don't want to be someone who is not delivering.
Yes.
And so you work hard to deliver and to show people that you're delivering. And
because I love it.
Yeah. Well, it's fun. I mean, it's a victory.
I'm like Smithers.
Yeah. Yes. But it's like, it's a hit for you. It's a victory for you. Every one of these media hits. And so just being a part of it and seeing how you operate and seeing how you are tenacious with it, but like in the most pleasantly persistent way.
You.
Like,
you haven't seen my ugly side yet. Just kidding.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the real crazy. I know the crazy's there. I see it. I'm waiting for like next level craziness to
You'll have to have a conversation with my husband.
Yeah. When are we going to dinner? Yeah, I need a couple of cocktails with that guy. We'll see what's coming. See what you're hiding and waiting for.
I keep it cool.
Keep it cool. Yeah, just you and your husband and your wiener dogs.
The weens.
The weens. That's what one of the, we were on a call.
Oh, the weens are so much drama.
They are. Oh my God. They're constantly like, we were literally on a Zoom call, the entire marketing team. And you like reach over and caught throw up from one of your wieners in your hand. So it wouldn't go on the couch. We're all like, whoa, my God, what are you doing?
I think since we have been working together, I've had one ween fall off the back of the couch and almost break his back. It was not our fault. It was like, Jack in the Titanic where he's sinking down from the door and it's slow-mo. I was like, Hans, I tried to catch him.
Hans.
So we've had like a broken back. We've had one that we had them tested for COVID because they were so sick.
Yeah.
And the health department came. They were doing an experiment. So we offered them up. They were negative, but that's when they were puking in the hand. And then, we have another one right now with some digestive issues. So they definitely keep us on our toes. And I'm so open about it because
they're so needy.
Working from home too, the dogs know when I'm on a Zoom call and they want to be a part of the crew.
Totally. So, that's why I can't work from home. Dogs, kids, Beth. Beth is always like, you stay home today? Like, what are we doing? I'm like, no, like I'm working. It was funny because I was talking to JC earlier. We, Beth and I are having another baby here in a couple weeks. And thank you. And we're working on some dates and thinking when things are going to happen. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like right during the holidays, which is always the slow time for me.
Anxiety.
But what's great about it is the last time I worked from home for over a month because my office was like 25 minutes from home.
Oh, yeah.
And then the hospital was like 25 minutes from
home.
You can't. So it'd be like a 50-minute, right? So Beth jokes, she's like, the day after the baby was born, you were back in the office. I mean, she jokes, but it was real. But I was like, I spent a month not going in, and I couldn't get anything done. I was working at like half capacity because Beth like wanted to go to lunch. Yeah, she wanted to go to lunch. The kids were there, the dog, the cats. Like it was, I just can't get anything done. I also don't like have pure dedicated workspace at home because we're all jammed with kids. So.
But now you have this beautiful.
Well, I have this. I'm
area,
4 minutes.
and you're
like
4 minutes.
I'm 4 minutes from home. So,
yeah.
So for me, this next one, it's like, I get to.
You're like, honey, I could grab Jimmy John's on the way to get you to the
hospital. You want a sandwich? Here we go. One last outside food for a while. Oh man. So no, it definitely the dynamic is changed, but yeah, working from home with the pets and all that. And
it's just wild.
It is wild. And that's probably been a huge change for you too, going from corporate stuff.
Yeah. And I actually thrive alone. I didn't really realize that. I loved obviously being in office spaces and having my coworkers, and it comes, I feel that a little bit when I have a press release or something that I'm writing and I need to bounce it off someone, but my mom's become my personal assistant. She's a writer as well. And then my stepdad's like my in-house attorney. So it's great. But I really enjoy working alone and working from home. I'm kind of a homebody. My husband and I have been together almost 8 years, and we've watched Dateline every Friday at 8:00. We have not missed an episode. We are. So we're homebodies. I'm a Taurus, so I'm a homebody as it is. So
your personality that doesn't even.
I know, isn't that weird?
I know.
Because I'm an extrovert, but I thrive at home alone.
That's so funny. Yeah, it doesn't seem to line up.
Yeah, Dateline.
I think you're lying.
No, I swear. I love it.
What with shifting into like the working for yourself and the entrepreneurial side of things, what do you find is the biggest challenge to entrepreneurialism? Not necessarily your day-to-day, but like what's the biggest challenge you found in like running your own business and trying to, move the needle forward on that?
I would say, well, two things. One, billing. I'm not a math major, so I'm like.
It seems like something you would enjoy.
Yeah, I'm just like QuickBooks. So, I think also really figuring out retainers and how much time I'm really putting in. Mm-hmm. But also for me, I don't have a cutoff time. I work 7 days a week, but that gives me more flexibility. And I think that's also important for anyone, who's looking for somebody in PR. You have to make sure that you are pitching on the weekends. There's a whole nother different, arena out there and different set of eyes. But I think that has been one of my biggest challenges is not working 7 days a week. And I know that sounds really silly, but it is. I like to, some days like Monday I'll work 10 hours and then maybe Tuesday I'm working 4 hours. And then I know I have 8 hours on Saturday. So I love the flexibility, but it comes before a lot of things. And so it's kind of, you know this. You work 7 days a week. So it's really kind of finding, I don't want to say balance because, you can do that, but just limiting myself.
Well, that's it. You can really get yourself to the point where all you're doing is working.
Yeah.
And there have been times where on weekends where I have found, I said this to my dad and I go to breakfast once a month. The minimum we see each other once a month, go to breakfast. And we were talking about careers and growing. And, I told him that I found myself a month or so ago having trouble not working.
Yeah.
If I'm sitting at home and it's Saturday and we're hanging out with the kids or whatever, not pulling my phone out and looking at email or not thinking about a client engagement or not working through something, I was having trouble with that disconnect. And he's like, half a second, like split second after I said that, he was like, you got to work on that.
Yep.
And that's coming from a guy who billed thousands of hours a year as a lawyer who still is actively practicing, who works in an industry where like he can be playing golf, but mentally working through a client matter and billing them. Right. So he's coming from an industry that can't turn it off. He's like, you got to work on that. And so I've really been trying, obviously client stuff comes up on a Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday night, doesn't matter. If it needs attention, it needs attention. But at least trying to get to the point where I can
turn it off
without having to like black myself out drunk. You know what I mean? Like the only way I turn it off is with whiskey and IPA.
Yeah.
It's like, getting away from that and being able to like really like, okay, I did something the other night and Beth was like, good for you. I got home from work, and I got home, 6:30 something. Got home and found myself with my phone in my hand looking at texts and emails when I just left the office looking at texts and emails. And she was talking to me. I was like, hold on, I'm going to go put my phone away. And she was like, good job.
Yes.
Good for you. And just set it aside. Because like, what's going to happen at 7 at night?
Exactly.
That I can't deal with.
Actually, when we first started working together, you were the first one, because there was an email that we were exchanging and I had panicked thinking that, you had misinterpreted it. And I think it had something to do with your title. And I freaked out. And then I texted you and you were like, oh yeah, sorry, I don't answer my phone after 6 p.m. And I was like, what a concept. I need to do that. And it really did. It made me think. And I was like, well, I really need to respect his boundaries. And then also I just need to shut it down. What is going to happen? The world is not going to implode. So yeah, I've got some New Year's resolutions.
Good.
And we'll start those in about 30 days.
I'm going to wait.
Yeah, but no, it's really important. And that's, not looking at your phone all the time it's so convenient and it's there. But now when I get a score on my phone that says, hey, your screen time was down 13%, I'm like, hell yeah.
That's awesome. You're like the only one that I know that doesn't just go, yeah, more time. Just turn the screen time off. Totally. It happens. But, no, I think that building those boundaries, and you having been running your own business for over a year and seeing it is a growing concern. Mm-hmm. There's I don't need to panic. Things are, steady. Like this can be handled at tomorrow morning. Right. I mean,
well, and sometimes too, I've found as well, I like to just fire off emails, and I've been so much better. I'm like, I need to think on that response. Not that it would be anything bad, but just to position it differently or to say something differently. Or sometimes it happens to be me saying no a little bit more.
Yeah.
Around.
Which is the most powerful word that people don't use, right?
I haven't been using it, but I've been using it a lot more lately.
I find that people in my business where it's like, someone showed a glimmer of like, hey, we're thinking about buying or selling, right? Or so-and-so told me to give you a call. And then I'll follow up and like, I'll follow. I will be pleasantly persistent. I'm not going to I'm not an ankle biter.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be like, you're not calling me back. Like, I'm just going to, dude, I'll put you in my CRM and I'm going to text you in 3 months.
Yeah.
I'm going to call you in 2 months, or I'm going to, whatever. I have found that like, it takes me to the point with some people to say, hey, if you're not interested in doing this anymore, totally get it. Just say the word. Otherwise, like, I don't give up.
Right.
And then people will be like, yeah, actually, we decided we're just going to stay for another couple of years. Or, sorry, we bought with someone else, something like that. Like people just have such a hard time saying no.
Yeah.
But it is one of the most empowering things. It is such a powerful word in this language. It's a powerful word in business. It's a powerful word in your personal life. And it's one of those things that when I look at my life, and one of the many things that I've learned from working with Al Fuentes, my mental coach, my mindset coach, is to not be motivated by guilt, expectation, obligation, or burden.
Oh, wow.
And
you got to hook me up with that guy. Let's do the intro.
Let's do it.
Say those again.
Guilt, expectation, obligation, and burden. When he first brought that up to me, I was like,
wow.
I go, dude, then what motivates me? And he's like, bingo. Like, you got to figure that out.
Wow.
So much of that guilt, expectation, obligation, and burden can be handled by just saying no.
Yes.
No. Do I feel guilty if I don't do that? If I'm feeling guilty about not doing that thing, then I shouldn't do that thing.
That is my thing. Guilt. And I've got to figure out the difference between, like, I'm always like, if I say no to something, then I'm going to have bad karma and like, I just want to live a nice life.
Yeah.
So I'm like, is that going to bring me bad karma if I don't go and help at the shelter? I don't know, but I don't have time.
The pig rescue?
Yeah. The pig rescue. So that's great. You do need to hook me up with them.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's so empowering
powerful.
because it really it frames it. Like you'll have those conflicts come up, an interpersonal conflict or a business conflict, or my gosh, I've got an opportunity. Should I go down that path? And then you think you're like, is that an expectation? Is it expected of me to do that? Is there an obligation involved with this? Like you start framing your decisions in these things, and then you realize pretty quickly what's important and what's not.
Well, I think having the tools to be able to answer that is great. I have no tools right now.
Well, the tool is no.
Yeah.
Right? The tool is saying no if you start feeling pain, guilt, expectation, obligation, and burden. And it's when you frame stuff in that manner, my gosh, it's like, it's really empowering. And that's what people don't realize. They'll drag decisions along, drag you along. You'll be dragging someone along because you just can't find the courage to say no. And it is so liberating and empowering to use that word. I mean, you don't have to just be like, no.
Right.
No.
I have COVID.
Yeah.
I could always
Maybe. Yeah. Like, yeah, I might have COVID at that time. I don't know.
the new variant has infiltrated my house.
Exactly. It's infiltrated my wiener dogs.
Oh, God.
Well, hey, look, this has been a blast. I love hanging out with you.
I love hanging out with you too.
We have so much fun.
We do.
We have fun as a group. We have fun, as a Halpern residential organization. We have fun individually. You and Beth, like every time she's like, "Oh yeah, going out to lunch with Holly." I'm like, "Oh my yeah, petties, green juice.
I know.
Go get some green juice that you're obsessed with, and go get petties."
I know. Well, our next date, I'll be over at your house, and we're gonna get what are we getting? We're getting shishito peppers from the Vig. That's like what we have to look forward to.
It's always some food thing.
Yes.
Food and toes. That's what you guys. That's what you do.
Actually, it should be its own podcast.
It should. Food and toes. That can be yours. You
Food
started
and
it. So I'll give you the title.
But thank you.
You're
it's
welcome.
a pleasure working with you.
Yeah.
You really are my unicorn. And I mean, you really are so invested in what we are doing, and it makes my life so much easier. So.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Well, that means a lot. Well, thank you for coming, and thank you all so much for watching, listening to the What's Halperning podcast. If you have any questions or anything comes up in this podcast you want more information on, please feel free to connect with me. Happy to give you Holly Morgan's contact information. You can Google her. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
You can email me at holly@hollymorganmedia.com.
There we go. Thank you guys so much.